Hey folks, before we dive in, make sure you follow SkyAlert USA so you never miss a beat. We've got all the latest weather updates coming your way, and you won't want to miss out on future videos. Stick around, there's a lot more in store. Welcome back to SkyAlert USA, your #1 source for breaking weather alerts, severe storm coverage, and everything happening in the skies across the United States and Canada. I'm your host, and today, Friday, February 20th, 2026, we have a lot to cover. From a deadly winter storm aftermath still being felt across multiple states, to an active fire weather threat roaring across the southern plains, to a major atmospheric river threatening the west coast this weekend, this is shaping up to be one of the most active late February weather patterns we've seen in years. Stay with us, because this is a broadcast you do not want to miss. Let's get right into it. Segment 1. The Aftermath of the Monster. January winter storm and ongoing recovery. Before we get to today's current threats, we need to address the elephant in the room, the catastrophic winter storm that paralyzed much of the United States and Canada in late January 2026, and whose effects are still being felt weeks later. From January 23rd through January 27th, what meteorologists and media dubbed Winter Storm Fern, and what many residents are calling Snowmageddon 2026, swept from northern Mexico all the way to Maine, impacting more than 20 states and large portions of Canada. The storm caused deadly and catastrophic ice and snow impacts across a very long stretch of land, from northern Mexico to the southern and northeastern United States and into Canada. The scale of this event was truly historic. Extreme cold warnings stretched as far south as the Mexican border, while freeze watches extended into northern Florida. Much of the southeast was also under ice storm warnings, and farther north, winter storm warnings covered much of the Midwest, Mid-Atlantic, and Northeast. The human toll was staggering. Meteorologists from the National Weather Service estimated that around 300 million people were under winter precipitation and/or cold warnings or advisories. Think about that for a moment. Nearly the entire population of the United States was under some form of weather alert simultaneously. The aviation sector was brought to its knees. January 25th became one of the days with the most weather-related flight cancellations in United States history, with over 11,000 by end of day, the worst since March 30th, 2020. A total of over 20,000 flights were canceled from January 23rd through the 26th. In Canada, the story was equally dramatic. Toronto Pearson International Airport reported its largest single-day snowfall since records began in 1937, receiving a total of 46 centimeters, that's 18 inches, of snow, while downtown Toronto accumulated 61 centimeters, or 24 inches. The city activated its major snow response plan. Emergency shelters were opened across Ontario, and the province of Ontario called it the worst ice storm event since the historic ice storm of 1998. Power outages were widespread and devastating. About 800,000 customers remained without power by January 26th, with the most significant electrical impacts seen in Tennessee, Mississippi, and Louisiana. Federal disaster assistance was made available to Tennessee, and DHS and FEMA continued to support state-led recovery in Mississippi. Now, as of today, February 20th, recovery efforts continue in some of the hardest-hit communities. Roads in parts of Appalachia are still being cleared, and some rural power customers in Tennessee and Mississippi are only now seeing their electricity restored. This storm will go down in the record books, and its economic damage is already estimated to be in excess of $4 billion. Segment 2. Today's most dangerous threat: critical fire weather across the southern plains. Alright, now let's shift to what is arguably the most dangerous ongoing weather threat right now, today, on February 20th, 2026. And that is the critical fire weather situation unfolding across the southern plains. An elevated to critical fire weather threat is continuing across the southern plains as gusty winds and dangerously low relative humidity create explosive fire conditions. This is the kind of setup that fire meteorologists dread most. Dry air, strong winds, and vegetation that has been parched by weeks without significant rainfall. Specifically, states including Texas, Oklahoma, and parts of Kansas are under red flag warnings today. Wind gusts across parts of the Texas Panhandle and western Oklahoma are expected to reach 40 to 55 miles per hour, with relative humidity values dropping to single digits in some locations. Any fire that ignites under these conditions could spread with terrifying speed, threatening homes, livestock, and lives. We want to urge residents across these areas in the strongest possible terms. Do not burn anything today. Do not mow dry grass. Do not operate any equipment that could generate a spark. If you see smoke, call 911 immediately. Do not wait to see if it grows. Under these conditions, a small fire can become a raging inferno within minutes. This fire weather threat is expected to remain elevated through Saturday before some improvement arrives on Sunday as moisture levels increase slightly. However, we are watching another potential fire weather episode next week as the pattern resets. Even as parts of the country bake under record warmth, a significant winter storm system is tracking across the Great Lakes region and pushing into the Northeast today and into Saturday. Heavy snow is possible from portions of the Central Plains, northeast into the upper Mississippi Valley and upper lakes, and from northern New York State into central to northern New England. The primary zone of heavy snowfall today extends from the northern reaches of Michigan and Wisconsin, across the Upper Peninsula, and into upstate New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. Snowfall totals of 8 to 18 inches are possible in some of the higher terrain, particularly across the Adirondacks, the Green Mountains, and the White Mountains. A winter storm will track across the Great Lakes and Northeast U.S. Friday into Saturday, with areas of wintry mix and heavy snow from northern New York through southern Maine. In addition to the heavy snow, areas along the southern fringe of this storm, including parts of central and southern New England, could see a treacherous mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain. A mix of freezing rain and snow is anticipated for some areas, with ice accumulations of 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch expected. Even that relatively modest amount of ice can make roads and sidewalks extremely dangerous. Travel across the I-90 and I-87 corridors in upstate New York and along Route 2 and I-93 in New England could be severely impacted through Saturday morning. We strongly recommend avoiding non-essential travel in these areas. The cold that follows this storm is equally noteworthy. The departing nor'easter will have northerly winds behind it that will advect a much colder Canadian air mass, with highs 10 to 20 degrees below late February averages from the deep south to the Ohio Valley by Monday, remaining rather chilly into Tuesday. This means that after an unusually warm week for the southeast, where several record-high temperatures have been set, a sharp and bitter cold snap is coming early next week. Residents from Georgia and Alabama north through the Tennessee Valley need to be prepared for a very sudden and dramatic temperature crash starting Sunday night and continuing through at least Tuesday. Separate from the winter storm to the north, severe thunderstorms are possible this evening over the Ohio Valley. This is unusual for mid-February, but not unheard of, as the clash between the warm air surging in from the southeast and the cold air diving down from Canada creates an unstable atmosphere ripe for storm development. The primary severe weather threats with these storms include damaging straight-line winds, large hail, and an isolated tornado cannot be completely ruled out. States most at risk include Kentucky, southern Indiana, southern Ohio, and West Virginia. If you live in these areas, keep your weather apps active tonight, have multiple ways to receive warnings, and have a plan to get to your lowest interior room if a tornado warning is issued. On the opposite side of the country, the West Coast is bracing for a major moisture event this weekend. A broad, low-pressure system off the coast of Oregon is expected to become slow to move over the weekend and enhance onshore flow from northern California to western Oregon, with the potential for an atmospheric river event Sunday into Monday, with a few inches of rainfall possible in some areas, and heavy snow from the higher terrain. Atmospheric rivers are long, narrow corridors of concentrated moisture in the atmosphere, often called the rivers in the sky. And when they stall over the same area for an extended period, they can drop tremendous amounts of rain and snow in a very short time. For a California that has been grappling with drought in some areas and wildfire risk, this incoming moisture is a double-edged sword, desperately needed water, but also the very real risk of flash flooding and debris flows, particularly in areas scarred by recent wildfires. Northern California, the Oregon coast, and the Cascades are expected to be the hardest hit. Heavy rain could cause rivers to rise rapidly, mudslides and rockfalls to threaten roads, and travel over Donner Pass and other Sierra Nevada mountain passes could be temporarily closed. Residents in burn-scar areas from recent wildfires must be on high alert for debris flows, even with relatively modest rainfall totals. One of the most striking features of today's weather pattern is the extreme temperature contrast across the country. Below average temperatures are likely from the west coast into the plains, while above average temperatures persist for areas east of the Mississippi River, except for New England. More record high temperatures are possible for the southeast into Florida. That means, parts of the country are sweating in record warmth today while others are freezing in bitter cold. And those two air masses are colliding right in the middle of the country, fueling the severe weather threats we just described. In Florida, temperatures are running 10 to 15 degrees above average for late February, with some locations pushing into the low 80s. Meanwhile, parts of the Intermountain West and Northern Plains are sitting 10 to 20 degrees below average. This is a recipe for a very active weather pattern, and the instability generated by these clashing air masses will continue to fuel storm systems through the weekend. North of the border, Canadian forecasters are monitoring a relatively quiet period today compared to the brutal month of January. However, British Columbia is bracing for the same atmospheric river event that will impact the United States Pacific Northwest, with heavy rain expected along the coast and heavy mountain snow in the Coast Ranges and the Rockies this weekend. In Ontario and Quebec, residents are still digging out from the January storm's aftermath. A reinforcing shot of cold air is expected next week, which could bring temperatures plunging once again across the Great Lakes region. Environment and Climate Change Canada is already monitoring the pattern for potential early next week winter weather impacts across southern Ontario. The Prairie Provinces, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and Manitoba, are currently enjoying a brief mild stretch with temperatures near or slightly above average, but forecasters note that, this warmth will be short-lived, with a return to below normal temperatures expected by late next week. Let's walk through what to expect over the next 3 days. Today, Friday, February 20th. The primary threats today are the critical fire weather across the southern plains and the ongoing winter storm impacting the Great Lakes into the northeast. Severe thunderstorms are possible across the Ohio Valley this evening. The southeast continues record warmth, with Florida likely seeing more record highs. The west coast is dry today, but, clouds are already increasing ahead of this weekend's atmospheric river. Tomorrow, Saturday, February 21st, the northeast winter storm gradually winds down through the morning, but not before additional snowfall accumulates across northern New England. The atmospheric river begins to engage the Oregon and northern California coasts, with heavy rain developing late in the day. Fire weather conditions improve slightly across the southern plains as wind speeds decrease. The warm anomaly across the southeast reaches its peak before cold air begins to push in from the north. Sunday, February 22nd, the atmospheric river hits full force across the Pacific Northwest and Northern California. This is the day to watch on the west coast. Heavy rainfall totals of 2 to 5 inches are possible along exposed coastal ranges, with feet of snow in the Cascades and Sierra Nevada above 5,000 feet. Across the eastern half of the country, temperatures begin crashing dramatically as Arctic air surges south. By Sunday night, temperatures from Missouri to Georgia will be falling sharply, with freezing temperatures possible as far south as northern Alabama and Mississippi early Monday morning. As we close out today's broadcast, we want to leave you with a few critical safety reminders given all of the active weather across the country. For fire weather areas in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas, Avoid any open burning, do not discard cigarettes outdoors, park vehicles only on paved surfaces, and report any fire sighting immediately to 911. For winter storm areas in the Great Lakes and Northeast, allow extra travel time or avoid travel altogether. Keep an emergency kit in your vehicle with blankets, water, and a flashlight, and check on elderly neighbors who may need assistance. For those in the Ohio Valley severe thunderstorm zone tonight, download a reliable weather app that gives you push alert warnings, identify your safe room in advance, and unplug expensive electronics before storms arrive. For West Coast residents ahead of the atmospheric river, clear drainage channels around your home, move valuables out of flood-prone areas, and if you live near a burn scar zone, be prepared to evacuate quickly if a debris flow warning is issued. For all of Canada and the northern United States heading into next week, prepare for another cold snap by checking your heating systems, insulating pipes, and stocking emergency supplies at home. That wraps up today's SkyAlert USA weather report. This has been a jam-packed broadcast covering some truly extreme conditions from coast to coast. Remember, weather doesn't take a day off, and neither do we. If you found this report helpful, please like this video, subscribe to SkyAlert USA for daily weather coverage, and hit that bell icon so you never miss a critical weather alert. Stay safe out